Hey guys, Mark here, co-founder at Aethir, here today at our DAI day in Dubai for Token 2049. Sitting here with Nader from EigenLayer. Stole a bit of time from him, and we're going to catch up and chat about AI and stuff that's kind of interesting out there in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good to be here chatting with you. Looking forward to the event. We were just chatting. Something we were kind of discussing is how, the AI coding tools have really changed everything in the past year, really quickly, right? You can pretty much build anything. If you're a developer, you're moving 100 times faster. And if you're not a developer, you're still able to do stuff. So we're just kind of chatting about like what people are doing, and there's just a million things happening. It's hard to keep up, but one of the things that I'm working on right now and that I've been diving into a lot is the MCP server landscape, or just the MCP landscape, and just seeing how people are kind of using MCP servers to facilitate different actions by augmenting the very powerful LLMs that exist out there. It's kind of like giving you now superpowers within those really already powerful tools. So it's really cool, and there's a lot of stuff you can do.
It's crazy. I really see MCPs as a gateway for Web 2 into Web 3, right? The opportunity there, I think, is huge. I was fascinated by the space, seeing all of the advancements in the MCP side in kind of Web 2, and it's only been like in the last maybe 3 weeks, I feel, that we've started to see them spin up in the crypto side of things. What are you guys, I guess, focusing on from an MCP perspective within EigenLayer?
Yeah, we're still trying to understand like where it fits in, but for sure one place it absolutely fits in is around developer experience. When you're writing a server, you have these two different main types of, I would say, ways that you can kind of like add additional, I would say, functionality to the server. One is through tools, and one is through resources. So you can kind of think of like a tool as an action. So if you're like, you could almost think of like a tool as like a database action, like write, read, delete, update. And then a resource is like a read. So like the resource will provide information to augment the context, or maybe the query that the user asked for. So you might be able to shove in a bunch of lines of code to have it as a reference. You might shove in a bunch of documentation, so when the user asks a question, it has all this additional information that can kind of be used. That's very up to date. But if you want to do something like say, hey, go trade this token for me, and give me this other token, it can use a tool, and it can have like your EVM, private key stored somewhere safe, and then it can actually make that action for you and do it through an MCP tool call. Now, I'm not an expert at MCP at all. I've built a couple of servers, and I'm still kind of learning, but there's just a lot of really cool and exciting stuff. And I think that one of the things that I personally want to do is like become an expert at this, right? Because there's so much that you can do with it, and it's one of those early stage technologies that if you can master it, you can kind of often get like a leg up on everyone else. So
100%. It's crazy how quickly everything's moving. On the MCP side, are MCPs, do you think, in crypto anyway, something that third-party teams can develop? Like, could, for example, a third-party team develop the MCP for Solana or something?
Absolutely. Someone in my DMs yesterday was saying, actually, I was already talking to them, and they were like, yeah, we've built this almost like, it's not really a framework, but they've done it so many times, they know how to build them quickly. And they were like, yeah, we might build one for EigenLayer. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, yeah, do that. We would love that. Just hell yeah. What can I do to support it? And then like the next day he was like, yeah, I basically have it basically working already. It didn't take that long. I'm going to share it with you like later. I'm like, hell yeah. So, yeah, the barrier to entry to building this stuff is just becoming lower and lower, because like once something is done, you can essentially just like copy that, and you can even use that as context for another one, right? So you don't really have to reinvent the wheel ever in this new world, because as long as it's out there available, you can just now use that as part of your larger context.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's a superpower that crypto's really got, like the ability for all of these teams to come in there and build on top of what the protocols and the big players out there like EigenLayer have done before. I think it's going to be fascinating. There are some risks associated with MCPs, right? From a kind of a privacy and security perspective. How do you see those being tackled?
I think that for us, we are being careful, and we're using it only for resources, meaning for developers that want to read something that's already available on the internet. We're just making it easier for them to kind of get that information. If we do start doing what I would call like, the tool calling, the actions and things that are happening on chain. We have a whole security department that would probably really dive in and understand what's happening there. And we'd be very careful because security is literally our number one concern in everything that we do. So I don't know enough about like what the actions kind of look like and how you might do stuff. I feel like you really need to understand like what's going on and make sure that what you're doing is very, very, very precise and secure, obviously. So that's the area I don't really know enough about to really to dive in. The way I'm kind of using them at the moment is more for just adding very, very up-to-date information and making, in our case, building on EigenLayer a lot easier by providing the most up-to-date like reference architectures, documentation, and resources.
Yeah, fascinating. I think that's the best place to start, to be honest. How do you feel about the whole kind of vibe coding space, right? I feel on Twitter, for example, at the very least, there's kind of this massive portion of the community that's so pumped about it, right? They're excited, they're motivated, they have energy, they're building stuff. But then there's also this kind of segment of the developer community that's really almost against the vibe coding side. They're like, you don't understand the exploits that you're building into your code. You don't know
Totally.
the vulnerabilities. Like, where do you sit on that spectrum?
I try to take a very pragmatic view of everything, right? So like, to me, the way it is this. You have people that have never coded before. They can vibe code some pretty cool basic applications, but you probably wouldn't want someone to vibe code a smart contract. You wouldn't want them to vibe code like I would say a financial application. You wouldn't want to like use a code base that was vibe coded by like an amateur for anything that has any type of risk involved. But if they build a game and it's fun, like what's wrong with that? That's awesome, right? Like that's cool. If they build like a social network that you can use that, that feels like, that they've done enough to, not leak like some crazy amount of social data. There's a lot of stuff you can build like vibe coding that's pretty good. But what I've noticed as a coder, like I've been writing software for like 13 years, and that has been doing more and more of this vibe coding, is that like it can give you and get you to a place where it's like pretty good, but it's really, really not that great when you're taking the entire code base into consideration for doing like really, I would say, in-depth, detailed, nuanced things that are beyond just like a general like form or like a button or something like that. Like if you want to do like really, really intensive stuff, sometimes it makes errors and you really don't get the results that you need. So you then have to kind of be a little bit more specific. You have to go directly and be very, very, you really have to know what you're doing in the conversational like back and forth to get the right output. So I think vibe coding is great for people to get started, but you're never going to build like probably a Google or like obviously like some crazy complicated app doing that as a novice. As an expert, you can augment and maybe like make your workflow much faster and better, but you're still never going to ship the code that is created by AI without going and really reading through it, understanding and kind of like doing all that. So I think it just is kind of a tool to make things a lot easier. It's kind of like in the past when you would Google a question and Stack Overflow would give you an answer, and if you just copied and pasted it and you didn't know what you're doing or what it does, it's probably not a smart thing to do, right? It's the same thing with this. Like it's giving you code, you still should read it, you should still understand it. And then obviously this is much more important when you're dealing with smart contracts or anything financial.
100%. So for anyone looking to maybe get in and try vibe coding or put their foot in the kind of coding space, any tools that you'd recommend to start with? Cursor, Windsurf, anything like that you think people should kind of play with first?
Yeah, I would have multiple. I would do Cursor, I would do Windsurf, I would do Claude Code, and then I would also, there's this I think it's called Repo Mix, where you can kind of take any repo and it turns it into one large markdown file. So like if you combine all those things and like use them at the right place at the right time, then that's kind of the way that I do. I don't like use a single tool. I kind of use the right tool for the right job. And the only way you know what that right tool for the right job is by experimenting with everything and just seeing what works and where it works. So lately I have been enjoying Windsurf a lot. I've noticed Claude Sonnet 3.5 is still slightly better than 3.7. And other people have noticed that too. Some people love Gemini, the newest version of Gemini. I haven't had that much luck with it yet. I've been watching a lot of videos for learning other people's workflows on how they're actually building stuff. I think the more time you spend like watching other people do it, the better, because like there's so many crazy hacks that you would never think of that people are doing. That's just really, really cool. So
yeah, I think it's incredible. I think the more I get into the space, the more I realize you just have every model open. You've got your ChatGPT, you've got Claude, you've got Gemini, you've got at least one kind of coding support platform open as well. It's a crazy place. You get very different answers from very different, depending on where you ask.
Yeah.
But mate, it's been a pleasure. Thank you
Yes.
again for coming.
Thank you
today.
for having me.
Yeah,
I'm
it's gonna
excited
be
about
fun.
today.
Likewise.